Hi, fourth grade. We're going to finish up What's His Face today. Chapter 24 The Forbidden Gallery. There's no time to run. All Cooper can do is throw himself behind one of the display cases and pray that the big man doesn't notice him. The guard runs into the scene, panting with exertion. Who's there? Cooper holds his breath, trying his best to be absolutely still. But even as he hunkers there, he realizes that his cause is hopeless. In a room this size, the guy could have to be blind to miss him. He's keeping so silent that that all too familiar click seems as loud as a bomb blast. Roddy's form rises from the GX4000 and heads for the guard like a guided missile. What's he doing? Cooper asks himself. He can't fight that guy. He can't even touch him. Cooper risks a glance up from the floor. The big guard is frozen like a statue, his eyes wide with fright. He looks like he's seen a ghost. In the half-light of the museum, Roddy's simmering figure is perfectly visible, hovering in the air before the terrified man, leering and making threatening gestures. Cooper reacts on pure instinct. He cups his hands to his mouth and booms in the scariest voice he can muster. I am the ghost of William Shakespeare. The guard's wide eyes roll back in his head, and he crumples to the floor, out cold. Cooper rushes to the fallen security guard. He's unconscious, but still breathing. Roddy jumps back in the phone. Begone, Cooper Vega. Thou must abandon this folly. Roddy, wait. He will awaken soon, the ghost warns. Risk not thy future for... But Cooper had already seen it. The key ring, still clutched in the man's hands. He fishes it out of the limp fingers and rushes over to the door, to the secret room. Bravo, Roddy applauds. Thou art brilliant. Cooper begins fumbling with one key after another, hoping against hope that Alistair Northrop's acid hasn't ruined the lock for good, and always. Finally, on the sixth try, the cylinder turns and the door swings open. Cooper feels a jolt of exhilaration as he enters the billionaire's forbidden gallery. He expected an exhibit even more elaborate and fancy for the wolf's most prized possessions. Yet the room was small and spare, dimly lit, with items displayed on simple shelves or tables. There are manuscript pages under glass, handwritten letters, and what looks like legal documents. There are articles about clothing in rich fabrics and several pairs of spectacles. There's even a human tooth and a certificate of authenticity claiming it to be Shakespeare. Cooper reminds himself that most of what's here are things Mr. Wolfson can't admit to owning because they're either stolen or purchased illegally. Hurry up, Roddy, where is it? Where's Barnabas and Ursula? Roddy leaves the GX4000 and flies straight to a covered glass case that appears to hold a place of honor in the secret collection. He points it out with a translucent fingers. Cooper stares at the manuscript on display. The paper is thick, uneven, and yellowed with age. The ink is faded, almost gone in places. Cooper can read the opening lines now so famous as part of Romeo and Juliet. Two households, both alike in dignity. The penmanship is flowery, like in most of the handwritten documents from that period. Yet there's something childlike about it too. A little shakiness, a few uneven lines, and an occasional ink blot. It's not hard to believe this is the work of 13-year-old Roddy Northrop. Amazing. Not that Cooper ever doubted Roddy's authorship claim, but to have the proof right in front of him, at last, is an electrifying experience. He looks up at Roddy's hovering form and sees pride in the shimmering features. What a genius Roddy must have been, and still must be. A London street kid with no mother and a flaky father who was constantly in trouble with the law, apprenticed to a cruel printer with an aloof daughter who never so much as glanced in Roddy's direction. He had zero luck, no breaks, and very little kindness from anyone. And before the plague put an end to his short life, he managed to write a classic play that most people consider the greatest romance of all time. Cooper reached for the glass top, assuming it was locked. It wouldn't be the first glass he broke today, yet his preference to leave the museum as undamaged as possible. But no, the glass cover opens easily. He takes hold of the thick manuscript and lifts it off the velvet base. An alarm goes off, a blaring klaxon that fills the museum with its repeated roar. Roddy's ghostly hands cover his ears, and his spectral form glows red with flashing lights of the security system. He dives back into the phone and hollers, "Run, Cooper Vega!" No command had ever been less necessary. Cooper crams the manuscript in his backpack and races out the secret room. He nearly trips over the husky guard, who is still sitting up, rubbing his eyes, awakened by the sudden noise. "Hey, stop, you!" Cooper hears heavy footfalls behind him as the man gives chase. It leaves Cooper's feet wings. He sprints through the artifacts and folios and dives for the opening he cut in the window. The top of his backpack gets hung up on the frame, and he twists around, frantically reaching to free it. At last he tumbles out of the building, nearly impaling himself on the handle of the toilet plunger, which is still attached to the panel of glass. For an insane instant, he actually considers stopping his escape to rescue the plunger. His father will certainly notice its absence. But then the angry guard stomps into view at the window. There's just no time. Cooper sprints along the roadway, heading for the main gate, and beyond it his bike. He doesn't bother to stick to the cover of bushes now. Hiding isn't an option. People are going to notice he's been here, mostly because of the crazed security guard and the howling alarm. Speed is all that matters. He makes only one detour to the parked Rolls Royce on the mansion's circular driveway. His heart hammering, he throws off the backpack and fishes in the side pocket. "What dost thou pause?" Roddy demands in the earbud. "Thou must bust a move." "Wait a second." Cooper pulls out the bottle of acid, unscrews the dropper, and dumps what's left of the contents onto the car's front tire. Then he's in action again, running full bore, his chest on fire as he struggles for breath. The 5-foot wall that was easy to scale on the way in is almost too much for him, and he wastes precious seconds dragging himself over the top. He drops to the ground on the other side and scrambles across the highway into the woods in search of his bike. 30 seconds later, he's off, pedaling down the road with the energy he's never dreamed he had. He pulls the phone from his pocket and checks the time. 11:52. Oh no. He was supposed to be at the school more than 20 minutes ago. He had no idea burglary was so time-consuming. Roddy appears on the GX4000 screen. "Is there a problem, Cooper Vega?" "I'm late," Cooper gasped, "and I still have to ride all the way back to school. The other kids are going to kill me. Jolie will be mad. Mr. Marchese is going to have a heart attack." "Chelix, my dearest friend, thou hast accomplished a great deed today." "A great deed for you," Cooper shoots back in a strained voice as he pedals harder to tackle a steep hill. "But I'm dead meat." "Speak not so lightly of death," Roddy advises. Late thou may be. Yet thou shalt be there when the curtain riseth, and alive and well. Fear not, thy troubles are at an end. In the distance, a car engine sounds on the road behind them, and Cooper veers over to the shoulder to let it pass. A quick glance behind, however, reveals the passing is not what the driver has in mind. A silver Rolls Royce roars along the highway, gaining fast. Wolfson's Rolls Royce. Chapter 25. Places, everyone. It's the wolf, Cooper gasped, pedaling like mad. The bike speeds up, but Cooper knows it's a lost cause. No bicycle can outrun a car. The Rolls closes the gap quickly, pulling even with the bike. At the wheel is a security guard from the museum. In the passenger seat is Mr. Wolfson himself. Security guard gives a warning honk and motions for Cooper to pull over and stop. Suddenly, there's a loud boom as the car's right front tire blows out. The Rolls goes down on one rim with a screech and a shower of sparks. The driver wrestles the wheel for control and brings the crippled automobile to a lurching halt, 3 inches from the ditch. Cooper pedals on, streaking away fast as relief supplies his aching body with renewed strength. What happened, Cooper Vega? Cooper allows himself a strained smile. I might have been too hard on your dad's legacy. Maybe his acid works better than I thought. He risks another look behind, over his shoulder. Far behind him, the 2 occupants are out of the car investigating the damage. The angry billionaire is talking on a cell phone. The ride is long and grueling. Soon, Cooper is so sweaty that he barely trusts himself to handle the GX4000, which is the only source of time updates. 12:04, 12:17, 12:33. The return trip is taking even longer than he thought because the school is atop one of Stratford's original 3 hills, which means the path ahead is mostly rising. Call time was more than an hour ago. He can only imagine what must be going on in the gym. You can't have Romeo and Juliet without second watchman. Without Romeo, you're finished. Being What's-His-Face is the best he can hope for now. But the cast and crew are probably calling him as a lot worse than that. And whatever chance he might have had with Jolie is circling the bowl. He checks the time again. 12:41. 19 minutes to curtain. If he somehow gets there in time, he'll still need costume and makeup. For sure, he's sweating too much for any powder to stop it. And even then, it'll take until Act 4 for him to catch his breath. Maybe Brock's nasal twang would be better than a soundless whisper. Roddy provides encouragement through the earbud. Cooper Vega, thou shalt win the day. Don't bother, Cooper pants miserably. We're too far away. It would take a miracle to get us to school on time. All at once, a car drives through the intersection ahead, screeches to a halt, and reverses to block their path. Silently, the window retracts to reveal Veronica in the passenger seat and Chad at the wheel. Get in the car, she shrieks. I have to get to school, he shouts back. We know that. Half the town is looking for you. Get in the car. Abandoning the bike against a mailbox, Cooper hurls himself into the back seat and lays there, hugging the backpack with the precious manuscript inside. You are some wacky kid, Chad comments, roaring into a U-turn. Veronica is already on the phone. Call off the search party. We've got him. Yeah, he's okay, if you don't count stupid. We'll meet you at the school. Bye, Mom. Mom? Cooper echoes in horror. How does she know about this? When he didn't show up, Mr. Marchese called the house. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad was this close to bringing in the Army Rangers. Way to go, Cooper. If this is a cry for attention, mission accomplished. Cooper holds his head. Now his parents were upset. This day is like poison ivy. Every time you think the worst is over, another part of your body starts to itch. The craziest thing is he'll never be able to explain that all of this is their fault. They're the ones that brought him the phone with the hitchhiker on it. By the time they reached the school, the parking lot was packed with cars. Curtain time is 8 minutes away and the show is a sellout. Chad wheels them along the front drive and Cooper leaps out to find him in the arms of a cheerful mother. Later, Mom. I've got to get into costume. His father isn't as emotional. There better be a good explanation for this, mister. And there was, but not one that would make any sense. He's rescued by, of all people, Mr. Marchese. The director's face is so lacking in color that he doesn't appear to have lips. His mouth is just a narrow horizontal slash. He's covered in even more perspiration than Cooper, who has biked halfway up a mountain. And his words are just as breathless. I know you must have questions for your son right now, he tells the Vegas, but you'll have to wait. I need my actor. He grabs Cooper by the wrist and starts towing him into the building. Mr. Marchese, Cooper manages, I'm so sorry. I don't want to hear it, the teacher cuts in. Save your breath. You're going to need it on stage. Lucky for you, we're holding the curtain a few minutes extra. Mr. Wolfson is running late. He had car trouble. Right. Maybe he got 16th century acid on his tire. There's a lot of that going around. Backstage, the cast is frantic. They take to Cooper's last-minute arrival, some with relief, most with hostility. Dude, we were worried about you, Aiden calls as Cooper rushed past. But the worst is facing Jolie. She regards him with a combination of accusation and hurt. I honestly believed drama was important to you. I honestly thought you cared. I do. Before Cooper can draft some kind of exclamation, Mr. Marchese shoves him into the locker room. Get changed, he orders. I'll tell makeup you're on your way. The heavy doors close, and Cooper finds himself alone once more. Hark, Cooper Vega, comes Roddy's voice through the earbud. Did I not guarantee thou wouldst be here to perform thy part? Is that what you get out of all this? Cooper explodes. That everything's hunky-dory? My parents are mad, the teachers are mad, the kids are mad, and Jolie hates my guts. Thou shalt win her over with thy Romeo, Roddy promises. I'm sweaty and dirty, and I smell like a hog. I don't know how she's going to be able to stand beside me on the stage, much less decide she likes me again. Cooper throws off his clammy, dusty clothes and struggles into tights and tunic of Romeo. The backpack and his precious cargo he stashes inside locker 82 for 1582, the year Roddy was born. I'll talk to you after the play. He removes the earbud and places it on the shelf above the bag. That leaves only the phone. He has to find a place to stash it so Roddy can see his masterpiece being performed. He rushes out of the locker room. Makeup, the director orders, beckoning. Cooper dashes onto the stage. The curtain is down, but he can hear the excited buzz of the crowd on the other side. He locates a spot in the wings just out of the audience view. The papier-mâché Veronica City wall has a small tear in it, and he inserts the GX4000 into the split and taps it down so that only the corner with the camera lens sticks out. Enjoy the show, buddy, he whispers, and then runs off stage to get his makeup. It's a rush job, but at least he'll be able to go on with a clean face. The only problem reflected in the mirror is his eyes, which are wide, staring, and somewhat bloodshot. Not very Romeo like. Oh well, they probably won't notice in the last row. Mr. Marchese appears over his shoulder. Mr. Wolfson just arrived. Places everyone. Curtains in 60 seconds. The members of the chorus rush out on stage. There's an enthusiastic round of applause as the curtain rises. The narrator speaks the opening lines of the play. Two households, both alike in dignity. The words, spoken endlessly in rehearsal, light a fire under the cast. This time it counts for real. Romeo and Juliet is on. Crew members bustle around the wings, tweaking lights and ensuring that the staging goes as planned. The actor takes their positions for entrances and exits. As Cooper steps on stage for Romeo's first appearance, he checks Veronica's city wall to make sure the GX4000 camera is still peeking out at the stage. He delivers Romeo's first line. Is the day so young? As soon as the question is out of his mouth, the horrors of the morning melt away, and he's playing the role he rehearsed so well, in private with Roddy, and later with the entire class. A glance across the footlights throw him for a loop, and he almost chokes on his next speech. It's the wolf, front and center, glaring up at him. He recognizes me. Of course he does. It was broad daylight, and the Rolls Royce was maybe 4 feet away. By this time, Mr. Wolfson has surely examined the secret gallery. He knows exactly what's missing. And I'm the guy who asked about it, Barnabas and Ursula, on the field trip. With great effort, Cooper forces his mind back to his role and soldiers on. As mad as the wolf may be, he's watching the play, not shutting it down. Maybe if we give him a good show, he'll be in a forgiving mood. Fat chance. Now that he's been robbed of his precious manuscript, who knows what Somerset Wolfson might do. The Vegas are seated a few rows behind the wolf. Cooper's mom is doing her best to enjoy the playing, but his dad just looks ticked off. No way he's going to let a timeless classic distract him from the beef he has with his son. As for Veronica, if she glanced in the direction of the stage so far, it's news to Cooper. She and Chad are a few rows away, snuggling. Who do they think they are, Romeo and Juliet? Next to Chad sat his brother Brock. If anybody in the gym looked nastier or more miserable than the wolf, it's the former Romeo with his two black eyes. It can't be easy for him to sit there anticipating love scenes between his girl and what's-his-face. Brock would be thrilled to learn that Jolie had washed her hands of Cooper, her and everyone else in the 7th grade. But there's no way for him to know that right now. If they do a good job acting, they can still give the big jerk cramps. When Cooper heads off stage for Juliet's scene with Lady Culplet, Mr. Marchese is there to greet him with a slap on the back. Outstanding, the director raves, bright pink and hyper excited. I'm sorry I was so hard on you, but you're really knocking it out of the park. Great job. That's when Cooper starts to notice the eyes on him aren't quite as hostile anymore. Could it be that he's starting to turn it around? Jolie will be the real test of that. Their first scene together at the ball, where they're supposed to fall in love at first sight, Roddy believes that in spite of everything, she'll forgive him. Then again, Roddy thinks the most beautiful color in the modern world is school bus yellow. Romeo comes up behind Juliet, and Cooper delivers his first words to her. If I profane with thy unworthiest hand, she faces him. shy eyes shining. At minimum, it looks like she doesn't want to punch him out anymore. That's better than nothing. Is she forgiving him or just acting? It's impossible to tell. One thing seems clear. If he's going to win her over, it'll have to be with his performance. Luckily, there's no better play for exactly that situation than Romeo and Juliet. Cooper pours every ounce of sincerity he can muster into Romeo's romancing. He's been good before, but tonight he's on a whole new level. The audience has no way of knowing that the overpowering emotion of his acting has nothing to do with the story and everything to do with the fact that he messed up so badly and desperately wants to fix things with Jolie. The crowd watches, spellbound by the famous star-crossed lovers. Cooper ratchets up the passion in the hallway scene. Juliet's right there with him, matching his aunt. The question remains, is it real or is it pure theater? If it means nothing more than that she stopped hating him, he'll settle for it. It feels fantastic. The audience is totally into it. They gasp in shock when Tybalt accidentally kills Mercutio and cries out in horror when the revengeful Romeo kills Talbot. An intermission, the entire 7th grade is pumped. Even during their very best of their dress rehearsals, the performance was never this inspired. The actors are feeding off the energy of the audience, flushed with growing triumph. If this keeps up, Romeo and Juliet is going to be an epic blockbuster. The director's lips are back, and so is the color in his cheeks, which are very nearly purple. An hour ago, he was facing the disaster of having to cancel the whole event due to no Romeo round 2. Now he's looking to go down as the greatest director of the Shakespearean program has ever had. His eyes are alight as he gathers the cast and crew to greet a very special visitor. A jolt of electricity shoots up Cooper's spine. It is the wolf. Chapter 26. This one's for you. The billionaire is already applauding when he ascends the backstage steps. Excellent work, everyone. I keep checking my program to confirm that I wasn't watching the Royal Shakespeare Company itself. As the wolf goes on about how much he's enjoying the show, Cooper suddenly realizes that the man is scanning faces one by one, searching for someone. Searching for me. Ah, Romeo. The dark eyes locked on Cooper. Your performance has moved me. I'll look forward to the second half and the aftermath. When Mr. Wolfson has returned to his seat, the entire grade swarms Cooper. It's tradition that the wolf never singles out one performer. This proves that Cooper's Romeo is truly extraordinary. Cooper knows better. By aftermath, the billionaire is telling him that a confrontation is coming up. Probably one where the wolf holds a dagger to Cooper's head and says, "Give me back my manuscript or else." Cooper has the rest of the play, about an hour, to figure out what he's going to do. What will he say? Will he give it back? Can he work up the guts to tell Wolfson the plain truth? The manuscript doesn't belong to you, and how can he ever explain why? As the cast returns to the stage, Cooper catches sight of Jolie looking at him. Tentatively, hopefully, she casts a smile in her direction, but she's already turned away. Oh well, he thinks, setting his jaw. It's not like she's the biggest of his problems at the moment. She's doing this for Roddy, and he's going to see it through. In the second half, the actors continue to outdo themselves, and the performance soars. by the time the wolf has given up any pretense of watching Romeo and Juliet. He's focused on Cooper, staring him down. As Romeo crosses the stage, the smoldering dark eyes follow. Having a billionaire plotting against you is pretty scary, so Cooper blocks it out of his mind by concentrating on Roddy. How must it feel for the ghost to see his long-lost words come to life before him? And now that the part Roddy wrote is done, the Shakespearean tragic conclusion is starting to build. What thoughts are going through his Elizabethan head? Shakespeare may have ripped off the work of a 13-year-old printer apprentice, but when it comes to orchestrating a real downer ending, nobody could touch him. What began as love at first sight soon spirals out of control into disaster. Although Cooper has rehearsed this many times, tonight it's as if he's experiencing the tragedy for real. One by one, the plot twists unfold, each dragging Romeo and Juliet closer to the point where they take their own lives. When he comes upon her lifeless body in the family crypt, his grief is genuine. He cries. Cooper never cries, and only part of it is acting. The flask of poison that he drinks is filled with water, but it tastes bitter and lethal. And when he drops to the stage, it's more than just a fall. It feels like death. At last, Cooper and Jolie lie side by side in the crypt as the narrator delivers the final closing lines of the play. For never was a story more of woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. Waves of thunderous applause wash over the stage. Cooper's eyes are closed, so he isn't sure exactly when the curtain comes down until Aidan drags him and Jolie to their feet. Dudes, he crows, you killed the death scene. You owned it. For the first time since the play began, Jolie meets Cooper's eyes as herself, not as Juliet. You were fantastic. Because of you, he tries to reply, but both cast and crew are already stampeding in from the wings, wild with excitement, and it's impossible to communicate. So she communicates in a better way. She leans forward and kisses him softly on the cheek. The only words to describe it coming from Roddy. How now? Cooper gets to enjoy the thrill for about 3 seconds. The curtain goes up to reveal a standing ovation of parents, neighbors, and friends. Only one chair lacks a cheering audience member in the front of it, and it's glaringly obvious as the missing tooth. Front row center. The wolf is gone. No, not gone. There he is, in the back of the gym, in front of the far doors, ushering in 2 uniformed policemen. Fear jolts through Cooper, but he reminds himself that he has no right to be surprised. How does he expect the rich, powerful to deal with people who steal from them? I'm going to be arrested in front of the whole town, including my own parents. He wrestles his raising panic under control. There is no way to change what's about to happen. All he can do is follow through with his original plan. As the rousing curtain call goes on, Cooper slips off the stage. Take another bow, he urges. You saved the play. You deserve more than anyone else. Cooper ignores him, jazzing through the wings to the locker room and number 82. He pulls the manuscript out of his bag and jams his earbud in his ear and rushes back on stage. As he passes the city wall, he plucks his GX 4000 out of the crack, jams it in the belt of his tunic. Bravo! A ghostly voice is husky with emotion. The ending might have been cheerier, but that was beyond thy control. Pay attention, Roddy, Cooper intones. This one's for you. The applause swells once again as the triumphant Romeo strides on center stage. He holds up a hand for order and the audience quiets down. Thank you for coming to our play, and a special thanks to Mr. Wolfson for making it all possible. The wolf does a very bad job of concealing his rage as he acknowledges his ovation with a "you're welcome" wave. Cooper draws a deep breath and swallows hard. This is it. I want to tell you about the real play. It wasn't called Romeo and Juliet back then. It was called Barnabas and Ursula. And the reason I know this is because I have it right here. He holds up Roddy's manuscript, fanning it out, to give the audience a better view of the handwritten pages. An impressed ooh comes from the seats. Cooper is encouraged that the crowd is with him, but he doesn't let it go to his head. He hasn't hit them with the weird part yet. Cooper Vega, what sayest thou? Cooper ignores him. The thing is, he goes on, Barnabas and Ursula wasn't written by William Shakespeare. It was written by a 13-year-old printer's apprentice named Roderick Northrop. In 1596, before the play was done, Roddy died of the plague. The unfinished manuscript was discovered under Roddy's mattress by Shakespeare, who was at the shop because he was having one of his own plays printed. So he stole Barnabas and Ursula, changed the names to Romeo and Juliet, and wrote his own ending. A confused murmur rises up from the gym. To the audience, this started as a fun fact about the play they had just watched. But now, the kid seems to be telling him that William Shakespeare didn't write Romeo and Juliet. Not only that, but he ripped it off, from a dead 13-year-old no less. What kind of crazy story is that? The Vegas are staring at their son in open-mouthed amazement. Even Veronica has torn her eyes from Chad to gawk at her brother. Brock looks completely lost behind his bandages. None of this was part of the script when he was Romeo. Only the presence of two cops is keeping the wolf from leaping onto the stage and duct taping Cooper's mouth shut. Cooper, what's this about? Cooper forges on. He has to make his point while he still has everyone's attention. Even though Shakespeare gave the play a tragic ending, it was always Roddy's plan for Barnabas and Ursula to live happily ever after. He didn't survive to write the last two lines. But here's what they were to be. He reveals the conclusion the ghost told him he had in mind. No greater tale of joy could come to pass than this of Ursula and her Barnabas. Some of you might have wanted to see that happy ending, and some of you might think the sad one is better. But the good part, the stuff that makes this the greatest love story ever, that was all Roddy. He died before he could get credit for his work. But I think he deserves a big thank you from all of us. Dead silence greets the statement. Undaunted, Cooper tucks the manuscript under his arm and begins to clap. Those few seconds, when he's the only one, are the loneliest of his life. He hears a second pair of hands, and Juliet steps up to stand beside him. With Romeo and Juliet both on board, the entire cast and crew burst into applaud. Slowly, like ripples crossing the pond, the audience joins in until the ovation is deafening, far too loud for anyone to hear the click. What happens next will never be forgotten in the town of Stratford, even though no two people saw exactly the same thing, and many saw nothing at all. A shimmering form rises above the lead actor on stage. A trick of light, perhaps. The power of suggestion. A cloud of smoke from an overheated spotlight. Or some say the slender silhouette of a young teenage boy taking an elaborate bow. The figure shifts, stretches to envelop the manuscript in Cooper's arms. The glittering mass begins to spin, losing its shape as it picks up speed. Then, with a loud pop, a footlight blows. Above it, two spotlights short-circuit in a shower of sparks. Boom! The main lighting array goes off like a fireworks display. For an instant, the stage is as bright as high noon. Then it's over, leaving actors and spectators alike squinting into the gloom, jittery with alarm. A moment later, the regular gym lights come on. Smoke from the burst of light hangs heavily in the air. The cast and crew of Romeo and Juliet stand motionless on the stage. Cooper is at the front. The mysterious shimmering cloud is gone. Gone, too, is the manuscript of Barnabas and Ursula. Chapter 27, Under Arrest. That day, Cooper became the first Romeo ever to be arrested after a performance of Romeo and Juliet. Within 30 seconds of the gym light coming back on, he's flanked by two cops and marched off the stage. Veronica almost gets arrested with him for trying to wrestle her brother free from the officers. Cooper is amazed. Who knew she even liked him, much less that she was willing to take on armed policemen to keep him out of custody. He ends up in the principal's office, one-on-one with the wolf, while the Vegas sit outside. The cops are in the gym, searching the backstage area and locker room for the missing manuscript. "All right, kid, where is it?" the billionaire remarks. "I don't know," Cooper replies honestly. "You saw what happened. Everybody did." "I saw some sleight of hand trick," Wolf acknowledges. The kind of misdirection tactic every third-rate musician learns on day one. "Seriously," Cooper challenges him. "You think I rigged all those lights to blow just to give me a few seconds to stash the manuscript in some hiding place? Do you really think I know how to do that?" Dark eyes were nearly black now. "You knew how to break into my museum, and you knew exactly what to steal." Cooper flushes, shamefaced. "I admit that. I'll pay for whatever damage I did, but I can't tell you where the manuscript is now because I don't know. It was under my arms when the lights went off, and when they came back on, it was gone." "Pay for the damage," Mr. Wolfson snorted bitterly. "A priceless manuscript is missing. Who pays for that?" "Sorry," Cooper mumbles. He can't tell the billionaire the truth. He didn't steal Barnabas and Ursula. He restored it to its rightful owner. On the other hand, the wolf didn't steal it either. He wasn't the one who pulled it out from under the mattress of the poor dead apprentice. Shakespeare himself did that long before this man was ever born. Still, Mr. Wolfson paid a lot of money for it. "Well, at least you'll get the insurance money, right?" The wolf is tight-lipped. The manuscript isn't insured. Cooper is stunned. "How come? Weren't you worried that something might happen to it?" "Something did happen to it." The billionaire looks away. All at once, Cooper has the answer. "You never insured it because you couldn't admit it existed in the first place. It's the only handwritten Shakespearean manuscript in the world. There's just one problem. It's in the wrong handwriting. It's proof that Shakespeare ripped off Romeo and Juliet. And if he stole that, who knows what else he stole? You've got a whole museum full of stuff that would be worthless if Shakespeare turned out to be a fraud." The wolf draws his shoulders up in anger. The Baird of Avon is not a fraud. Copyists rewrote plays by hand all the time back then. How else could the actors learn their lines? "Yeah, but those copy lists didn't change the names of the character and move the setting to another city," Cooper resorts. "Or put by Roderick Northrop on the top." "Roderick Northrop?" the billionaire sneers. "Where do you get all that tall tale? My researchers tell me there might have been as many as 3,000 Roderick Northrops in England at the time. How many of them were working in the very same place where Shakespeare had his printing press?" Mr. Wolfson grimaced. The story is patently absurd. "Yes, There was a boy of that name apprenticed in the shop of Mannering and Brown. So what? As if any 13-year-old would be capable of creating the glory of Romeo and Juliet. Hey, you can say bad things about me, but lay off Roddy Northrop. He was a good writer, better than Shakespeare. I mean, if he'd lived to write the ending, you can bet it wouldn't have been such a bummer. You talk about this long dead boy as if he's a personal friend of yours. Cooper almost says maybe he is, but bites his lip. Why give this powerful man any more ammunition against him? There hasn't been a peep out of Roddy since the end of the play. True, there was only 45 minutes ago, but 45 minutes of silence isn't Roddy's type. 3 minutes is a stretch for him. Cooper isn't quite ready to let himself think about what this means. He is interrupted by the return of the two police officers. Sorry, Mr. Wolfson, the older cop offers. The search turned up nothing. I don't know where your property is, but it's not here. I see, the billionaire rumbles. I guess we can take the kid in for questioning, the other goes on. Could be he passed the manuscript off to an accomplice when the lights went off. We'll need a detailed description of the missing article and a photograph if you have one. Also, an estimate of the value. There was a long silence from Stratford, leading citizen. At last he speaks. Officers, I hope you'll forgive me. This has been one big misunderstanding. Nothing is missing. It was all part of a truly remarkable performance by these young people put out there today. The older cop is unconvinced. What about the break-in at your museum this morning? Vandalism, the billionaire assures him, an unrelated incident. You said an important manuscript was stolen. Merely misplaced. I just heard from my people. They were mistaken. Everything is where it should be. It's pretty obvious that the officers don't believe him. On the other hand, he's Somerset Wolfson. No one in Stratford will call him a liar, not even the police. You're dropping all charges then? The older cop asks. Of course, replies the wolf, nearly choking on his words. As the officers exit, Cooper realizes how lucky he is to be off the hook. Too well he understands that if Barnabas and Ursula wasn't a threat to Shakespearean's mighty reputation, he would still be under arrest right now. Thank you for clearing my name, he says. The billionaire scowls. Your name isn't clear with me. I'm watching you, kid, and I can afford a lot of eyes to help me. If I ever get word that my manuscript is out there somewhere, you can expect all the legal trouble you dodged today. You won't, Cooper promises. There's no way of knowing this, yet somehow, in his heart, he is certain that Barnabas and Ursula is safe in the hands of another. Without another word, Somerset Wolfson gets up and walks quietly out of the room, rushing right past the Vegas and Veronica, who are waiting in the outer office. Before rushing to rejoin his anxious family, Cooper can't resist pulling out the GX 4000 and checking for Roddy. The single text message awaits him. Time, 3:11 p.m. Precisely the moment the ghost in the manuscript disappeared. Holding the phone in his trembling hands, Cooper reads, I shall never forget thee. Chapter 28, A Gray Lie. A ride home is only half a mile, but the Vegas managed to pack a lot of interrogation into that. What happened at the end of the play? What was that speech accusing Shakespeare of stealing Romeo and Juliet from a dead kid? It was part of the show, Cooper tells him. Not a white lie exactly, but at least a gray one. Anyway, the wolf pretty much implied that to the cops, and no one would ever challenge a statement from him. It didn't seem like it, Miss Vega countered. A million schools put on Romeo and Juliet, Cooper reasons. We wanted to make ours a little different. You know, memorable. I'm never going to forget this, puts in Veronica, giving Cooper a sharp elbow. Seriously, that manuscript, it was a prop. Then how come Mr. Wolfson tried to get you arrested today? Captain Vega demands. Cooper shrugs. He didn't understand at first. When it comes to Shakespeare, the guy has no sense of humor. Once I explained it to him, everything was okay. You saw. Mrs. Vega won't let it go. What happened on stage at the end? There was like a cloud, but it looked almost like a person. You imagined it, Mom. The lights went crazy right before it blew. I saw it too, Cooper's father agrees with her. Same, Veronica adds, and that was definitely before the lights went kablooey. Fine, Cooper said, what do you want me to tell you? It was the ghost of Roderick Northrop, coming back to take his manuscript and claim credit for the play Shakespeare stole. Does that make more sense? The entire town of Stratford saw the ghost of a 13-year-old kid. When's your next transfer, Dad? We've got to get out of this place before we end up nuts too. Captain Vegas snorts. I suppose you think you're funny. You want to talk about ghosts? Show me the ghost who made off with our toilet plunger. The family laughs. Cooper sinks back in the seat, toying with the idea that he might just get away with this. The Vegas seem satisfied. And the wolf sure isn't going to spill the beans. Still, he wonders, how do you convince an entire gym full of people that they didn't really see what they saw? Faulty wiring disrupts triumphant middle school play. The Stratford Globe local news. School board officials confirmed that faulty wiring was to blame for the failure of the light array during Stratford Middle School's otherwise flawless production of Romeo and Juliet. The incident occurred during the curtain call. The exploding bombs created such a display, some observers reported that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Rapid-fire flashes of multicolored light often create optical illusions, commented Somerset Wolfson, sponsor of the annual event. Mr. Wolfson's love of Shakespeare has been legendary in the town. In an unrelated story, the nationally renowned Wolfson Shakespeare collection will be closed until further notice for maintenance and minor repairs. Epilogue. The GX4000 isn't buggy anymore. It powers down when Cooper tells it to and opens up only the apps he touches. The camera takes perfect pictures without a hit. The hype is true. It really is the most advanced smartphone on the market. Cooper liked it better before. It's nothing against the phone, obviously, but he misses Roddy with a longing that's almost painful. It was just a couple months, but during that time, the ghost was more than his one friend. Thanks to the earbud, Roddy was literally inside Cooper's head. It was like having a roommate in your brain. And while all roommates may get on each other's nerves here and there, the word close doesn't begin to describe what they shared. It's an empty space Cooper knows he'll never be able to fill. He'd give almost anything to hear another, "How now, Cooper Vega?" or one more of Roddy's lectures about what methinks. But he knows that Roddy and the manuscript are finally in the place they're supposed to be in, wherever that is. It was the bow that did it, Cooper decided. The spectacular soaring bow that Roddy finally received for the work of genius he wrote all those years ago. It's funny. Cooper has become famous in Stratford as the star of Romeo and Juliet, and it's stunning post-ending. He has friends now. Even Brock remembers his name most of the time. He has a girlfriend. Roddy never got Ursula, but he sure was right about Jolie. But Cooper's greatest achievement is one he can never tell anyone about. not even Jolie. How many seventh graders can figure out how to finish the quest for a 16th century ghost seeking to right a wrong he never knew about, because the injustice happened after his death? It's the kind of thing you only hug to yourself, smile in darkness until you fall asleep. Not wherever WhatsHisFace can accomplish something like that. That is the end. So that's our last book for this year. You guys all have a good summer break, and we will see you when school starts again.